El libertador. The film I chose was The Liberator. It's directed by Alberto Alvelo Mendoza, and it was first released July of 2014. The movie is based on the life of Simon Bolivar, a Venezuelan military leader. He was one of the many who wanted a free nation for his people, and he went up against the Spanish and others for that freedom. He went in with an army and many native people of the land that he fought to make free from those that want to govern in an unjust manner. A land made up of many people and races. This is where many battles took place and many lives were lost. All for a free land so that its people could live without persecution from those that may have been outsiders. The making of this movie puts into perspective of a time that we just read about. The director puts into play the harsh realities of the world in those particular times. Although you see the leader that Bolivar was and how he was a smart man, you see the trials and treasons that he faced. Just like any other person, first and foremost, he was human. He bled the same way his peoples did. Bolivar was born into a good family, Creole aristocrats. He studied in Europe and he wanted to have a free state for him and his people. He had a mentor who had to flee the country because he was accused of conspiracy to the Spanish government. Bolivar entered the army and took on a passion for military strategy. He used his skill to gain precedence over his people and form a small army of fighters. These small armies eventually became big ones, and in one of the scenes it shows where he rallies native people with a speech. Bolivar's dreams and goals were freedom for all the races in the Americas. The way that North Americans made their constitution and regulations was not workable for those of South America. Bolivar also governed what they called Gran Colombia. He became the president. He eventually failed in preventing to have the collapse of the Union. Gran Colombia was eventually replaced by the republics of Venezuela, New Grenada, and Ecuador. Who can stop the rain? Who can stop the wind? Who can stop the earth when it trembles? Who? No one. Consequently, one cannot detain a village who has awakened their hunger for freedom. The Spaniards came to this country and called it their own. They took our land and enslaved our people. We've been humiliated century after century and trod upon by heavy boots. The Spanish have wanted to make the desire for freedom vanish from this country, but they have failed. They have failed because of our desire for freedom. It is a seed that sleeps in the soil, waiting for a rainfall to germinate it. We must bring that torrential rain to wash away the arrogance, pretension, and the indifference of those who have oppressed us for so many years. The continent is waiting for a flood that finally inundates it with liberty. And we are going to bring that flood, and that flood starts on this day. He lived a life where he had some great triumphs and some setbacks. It was said that although he never really won a battle, he always liberated the people. He gave them a sense of hope and faith and showed the people that they could fight for what they believed. Bolivar died at the age of 47 in what is now Colombia. He died of tuberculosis, and on his deathbed it is said that he asked for all his writings and speeches of all his travels and all his doings be burned. The person who was supposed to do this disobeyed, and this is how now we can hear, read, and see the tale of El Libertador.